For 25 years, I believed I understood my husband, his moods, his habits, his silences, his comfort foods, his ways of loving, even the ways he avoided conflict. We met young, far too young to know how much life can change a person. We built a home brick by brick, paid bills, raised kids, battled struggles, celebrated milestones. I stood beside him through every version of himself, his confident years, his uncertain years, and even the years when he quietly drifted away without saying it out loud. And I thought that meant something. I thought 25 years gave us immunity. I thought loyalty meant protection. I thought love, once deep enough, could never be replaced. But apparently, I was wrong. It was a Tuesday afternoon when everything cracked. I made us tea the same way I'd made it for decades, 2 sugars for him, none for me. The curtains were half open, sunlight spilling across the table. It felt like any other ordinary, harmless moment. But he walked into the kitchen with a stiffness in his shoulders and a weight in his step and a look in his eyes that I'd never seen before, or maybe I had, but refused to acknowledge. He cleared his throat. "Anna, we need to talk." 9 simple words. But every woman knows that line never brings good news. I gently placed the teacup down. "What's wrong?" He sat across from me, fingers tapping nervously on the table. "We've been drifting," he began, eyes avoiding mine. "We're different people now. We want different things." I stared at him quietly. "Okay." And he inhaled sharply, like he needed courage to finish. "I think I want something new, a different kind of life, with someone younger." The air was sucked right out of the room. Younger. There it was. The dreaded cliché, pathetic little word that men throw like a grenade when they've run out of excuses. My lips parted, but no sound came out. For a moment, I couldn't even feel the ground beneath me. He continued, because cowards always continue when they shouldn't. "I've given this a lot of thought. I'm not happy anymore. I need excitement, fresh energy." Someone who I held up my hand. He stopped mid-sentence. "Say it." I whispered. "Don't dance around it." He swallowed. "I want a younger woman. There." Spoken out loud. Impossible to take back. My heart didn't break, not at that moment. Shock does something strange to the body. It freezes you so completely that pain can't get in. Yet, I leaned back slowly. After 25 years, 25 years of my life, "You want someone younger?" He didn't answer. His silence was confirmation enough. I studied him carefully, the man I once adored, the man I built a life with. Now he looked like a stranger wearing my husband's skin. A tremor of anger curled in my chest, not because he wanted someone younger, but because he said it like I was some expired product on a shelf, like I had lost value with time, like everything I sacrificed meant nothing. He finally spoke. "Anna, I don't want to hurt you. I just need more." I felt something inside me spark, a strength I hadn't needed in years. More. He needed more. From a woman who worked full-time, raised his children, nursed him through sickness, encouraged his dreams, forgave his failures, carried the emotional weight of our home, and gave him every ounce of love I had. I nodded very slowly. "All right. Then I hope you're ready to hear what I have to say." He sighed, like he already expected tears, begging, maybe a breakdown. But instead, I stood calmly, silently, powerfully. He watched me with confusion. "Anna." I walked to the counter, took the teacup I had prepared for him, and set it directly in front of him. Then I leaned forward until my eyes were level with his. "You want someone younger?" I said softly. "Fine. Go chase youth. But let me teach you something before you go. His brow furrowed. What? I straightened up fully, feeling stronger than I had in years. You're leaving the woman who built you for the kind of girl who would never tolerate you. He blinked. I continued, calm, steady, sharp as a blade. You think a younger woman wants a man with joint pain, back problems, and emotional unavailability. You think she wants a man who doesn't communicate, avoids responsibility, and needs constant praise. You think she's going to worship you for your fresh energy. No, darling. She's going to get tired very quickly. And when she does, you'll come running back to the only person who ever knew how to love you. His jaw clenched. Aina, I raised a finger. No, you wanted honesty? Here it is. My voice did not shake. My hands did not tremble, because suddenly I saw everything clearly. You think I'm replaceable. I whispered. But the truth is, I'm the best thing that ever happened to you. And I'm done letting you forget it. His eyes widened, shocked, not by my words, but by the realization that I meant every single one of them. And one more thing, I added, leaning closer. Age doesn't make a woman less desirable, but betrayal makes a man pathetic. He froze, completely stunned, exactly like I wanted. He had expected tears. He had expected heartbreak. He had expected weakness. But instead, he got truth, and it left him speechless. He didn't speak for a long moment, not because he was thinking, but because he had never heard me talk like that before. For 25 years, I was patient, soft-spoken, compromising. The peacekeeper, the one who fixed everything quietly while he pretended everything was fine. He had gotten used to that version of me. He expected that woman to react today. But that woman, she died the moment he said the words, someone younger. He opened his mouth like he wanted to apologize, but no sound came out. He looked lost, like a child caught doing something he wasn't proud of. Aina, I didn't mean it like that. He finally muttered. I raised an eyebrow. Then how exactly did you mean it? He rubbed his forehead, suddenly exhausted. I just feel like I'm getting older, like life is passing me by, like I missed something. I stared at him in disbelief. You missed something? I repeated. And you think the solution is a younger woman? He lowered his gaze. That was answer enough. Anger simmered inside me, but not the explosive kind. This was quiet, sharp, devastating anger. The kind that makes you see everything clearly for the first time. I sat down across from him again, my voice much calmer than I felt. You know what I missed? I said. I missed having a partner who didn't make me feel alone in my own marriage. I miss being appreciated. I miss being seen. He looked up sharply, guilt flashing in his eyes. And yet, I continued, I didn't go looking for someone younger. I didn't go chasing fantasy. I stayed. I tried. I carried us. He swallowed hard. I know, Anna. I know you did, but you didn't. I whispered. You checked out the moment life stopped being exciting. He flinched. Good. He should. The truth was, this wasn't sudden. Not at all. I saw the signs long before he had the courage to say them. The way he started going to the gym more. The sudden haircuts. The cologne he hadn't worn in years. The new shirts that weren't his style. The unprompted smiles at his phone. The extra time working late. I saw it all and ignored it, because denial is easier than heartbreak, and hope is harder to kill than fear. But now the hope was dead, and what remained was clarity. He sighed heavily and leaned back, running a hand through his hair. I just feel like I'm losing myself. I shook my head. No, you're not losing yourself. You're losing me. and you're blaming your age for it." He froze because he knew it was true. Men always say they feel lost, when what they really mean is they feel undesirable. And instead of working on themselves, they chase someone new who makes them feel young again. "What about everything we built?" I asked quietly. "The children, the home, the life. Does that mean nothing to you?" "It means a lot," he said quickly. "Of course it does, but not enough," I replied softly. "Not enough to stay, not enough to try, not enough to choose me." He sighed again, frustration creeping into his voice. "People change, Anna. I've changed." "Yes," I agreed. "You've changed, but not into a better version of yourself." His jaw clenched. "Well, so now I'm the villain." I gave a hollow laugh. "No, you're not the villain. You're just a man who thinks youth will fix the emptiness inside him." He opened his mouth to argue, but I continued before he could. "You don't want a younger woman. You want to feel younger. You want validation. You want attention. You want to be admired again. And guess what?" He looked at me, eyes narrowing. "No woman, young or old, can give you what you refuse to give yourself." Silence choked the room. He shifted uncomfortably. "I'm sorry, Anna. I didn't want this to hurt you." I exhaled slowly. "But you knew it would." He looked away, shame twisting his features. "You knew?" I said again. "And you still chose it." He covered his face with his hands for a few seconds, his voice muffled. "I messed up." I stared at him quietly. "You didn't mess up," I whispered. "You made a choice." He dropped his hands and looked at me helplessly. "I don't want to lose you." I leaned back and folded my arms, watching him carefully. "You already did." His eyes widened as the truth hit him harder than any argument ever could. "Anna, no." I stood again. You don't get to break something and then panic when you realize you can't glue it back together. He blinked rapidly, panic finally rising in his expression. I continued, my voice soft but merciless. "You want someone younger? Then go." He shook his head quickly. "Anna, wait, no. You waited 25 years to tell me how you truly felt. Now I'm telling you how I truly feel." I walked toward the doorway. "You don't get to choose me only when you're afraid of being alone." My voice didn't shake. Not anymore. "You had a woman who loved you every day for 25 years, I said quietly. "And you let her slip through your fingers because you were chasing something shiny." I turned around, giving him one last look. "One day, you're going to realize that I was the best thing that ever happened to you. And by then, it'll be too late." He stared at me, speechless, broken, terrified, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel small. I felt powerful, clear, whole. And I walked away, leaving him sitting in the silence he created. He didn't follow me immediately. For 25 years, whenever we argued, he would trail behind me with half-formed apologies, soft promises, and excuses he didn't fully believe. But this time, nothing. Not a footstep. Not a sigh. Not even the sound of a chair moving. Just silence. I walked into our bedroom, my bedroom now, as far as I was concerned, and closed the door behind me. My hands trembled as I locked it. Not because I was afraid of him, but because I was afraid of myself, of the emotions flooding me all at once. Heartbreak, anger, relief, numbness. It was like every version of myself from the last 25 years was standing inside that room, staring at me, asking, "No, what?" I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wedding photo on the nightstand. We were so young in that picture, smiling like the world belonged to us. His arm wrapped around me, my face pressed against his shoulder, both of us glowing with a kind of hope that felt invincible. I picked up the frame, tracing my younger self smile with my thumb. I'm sorry, I whispered to her. I should have protected you sooner. A knock came at the door. Anna, can we talk? His voice was quiet, small even, not the voice of a man declaring a midlife fantasy. The voice of someone who realized too late the gravity of his words. I didn't open the door. There's nothing left to say, I said calmly. I didn't mean to hurt you. You did? He hesitated. Ina, please. I sighed and leaned my head back. What do you want? I asked. I want to explain. Explain. That word men use when they're scrambling to justify the unjustifiable. I stood, unlocked the door, and opened it just enough to look at him. Not enough to let him in. He looked wrecked. Eyes red, hair messed up from running his hands through it, his entire posture slouched like someone carrying shame on his back. I don't want someone younger, he said quickly. I don't feel like myself anymore. I feel invisible, old, stuck. And that's my fault, I asked. No, he said quickly. No, of course not. Then why am I the one paying for your crisis? He swallowed. Because you're the closest person to me, he whispered. For the first time, I saw it clearly. He didn't want a younger woman. He wanted a reset button. And he thought breaking me would fix him. Something inside me hardened. Come in, I said stiffly. He stepped inside slowly, as if he wasn't sure he deserved to. He sat in the chair by the window and stared at his hands, twisting his wedding ring absently. It started a year ago, he said finally. I woke up one day and realized I'm 55. I'm not young anymore. My body hurts. My hair is graying, and every time I look in the mirror, I see someone I barely recognize. I cross my arms. That's aging. We all go through it. He nodded. Yes, but you handle it with so much grace. You never complain. You still look beautiful. You take care of yourself. You're strong. You're steady. And he laughed bitterly. I feel like a draft of a man. I sat down on the bed, not saying anything. I didn't go looking for someone younger, he said. But when someone flirted with me at the gym, just once, it felt like a lifeline. Like maybe I wasn't fading. I stared at him, my voice cold. And that made you think you deserved more than what you already had? He flinched. I never went further, he said. I never cheated, I swear. But it made me realize how much I hate the mirror, how much I hate getting old. And your solution, I said, was to throw away 25 years of marriage. His shoulders sagged. I was stupid. Not stupid, I said quietly. Cowardly. He blinked, stunned. You could have talked to me, I continued. You could have shared what you felt. We could have worked on it together. But instead, you blamed me for a problem you created inside your own head. His eyes filled with tears, real ones. I don't want to lose you, he whispered. You already have, I repeated. He stood slowly and stepped toward me. Anna, I love you. I shook my head. No, you don't. I do, he insisted. You love what I give you. You love the comfort, the stability, the routine. But me, my voice broke. You forgot how to love me years ago. He collapsed into the chair again, his face buried in his hands. I'm sorry, he whispered. I sat quietly for a long moment. Then I said, what exactly were you planning? Leave? Divorce? Or just replace me emotionally while keeping me around physically? He wiped his face. I don't know, I wasn't thinking clearly. You were thinking clearly enough to hurt me, I said. He winced as if the words physically struck him. Outside, Rain began tapping against the window, slow, rhythmic, almost soothing. He lifted his head and looked at me with a question I wasn't expecting. "Do you want me to leave the house?" I froze. That was the first honest thing he had said all day. I inhaled deeply. "No," I said finally, "not yet. But things won't go back to normal." He nodded slowly, understanding the weight of my words. "I want time," I said. "Space. Distance. And you're going to respect that." "Of course," he whispered. And I added, "You're going to start therapy. Real therapy. Not the kind where you pretend everything is fine." He stared at me, stunned. "Therapy," he repeated. "Yes," I said firmly. "If you want any chance of fixing what you broke, you need to fix you first." He didn't argue. He knew I was right. And for the first time since he said the words, someone younger, I saw a flicker of something in his eyes, not desperation, not guilt, not fear, but hope, a small one, a fragile one, and maybe, just maybe, something worth holding on to. The next morning, the house felt different, not quieter, not colder, just unfamiliar, like someone had walked through overnight and rearranged all the emotions in the air. I woke up alone, not because he left, but because I asked him to sleep in the guest room. It was the first time in 25 years that I didn't wake up beside him. I sat on the edge of the bed, letting the silence settle. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't rushing to make breakfast, clean the kitchen, plan the day, or check on him. I just breathed. And it felt strange, but good. When I walked into the kitchen, he was there, standing awkwardly by the counter, holding 2 cups of coffee like he wasn't sure if he still had the right to offer me one. He lifted a cup slightly. "I made yours the way you like it." I stared at it for a long second before walking over and taking it. "Thank you," I said softly. He let out a breath he'd been holding. We sat opposite each other at the table, the same way we had for decades. But now each of us carried new shadows, new truths, new caution. He cleared his throat. I booked a therapy appointment." I raised an eyebrow. "That fast?" He nodded. "You said I needed to start, so I did." A part of me softened at that. Another part stayed guarded. "Good," I said. "It's a step." He took a sip of his coffee, his hands shaking slightly. "I know I hurt you," he said quietly. "And there's nothing I can say to make it go away." I looked out the window. The sun was rising behind the clouds, turning the sky a soft lavender. "Why didn't you talk to me?" I asked finally. "Why did you let it get so far in your head?" He stared into his cup, ashamed. "I thought I'd sound pathetic," he whispered, "like a man who's afraid of getting older, a man who wants validation from strangers, a man who's not enough." And instead of telling me, I said, "You tried to replace me?" He flinched. "I wasn't replacing you," he said quickly. I wanted to feel desirable again, alive again. And I thought I needed someone new to give me that. "And now?" I asked. He looked up at me slowly. Now I realize I was looking in the wrong place. I should have been looking in the mirror, or talking to you, or trying to be a man worthy of the woman I married. My throat tightened, not because I forgave him, but because for the first time, he wasn't hiding. He was confronting his ugliness. And that takes a kind of courage most people never find. But courage doesn't undo damage. "We're not fixing this overnight," I said. "I know," he whispered. A long silence stretched between us. Then he said something I never expected. I told her it's over. My heart dropped. "Her? Who is her?" He looked away in shame. The woman who flirted with me, he said. I didn't cheat, but he hesitated. I liked the attention, and she knew it. Did you meet her again? I asked quietly. No, he said immediately. No. But she kept texting, and I kept replying sometimes. My chest tightened. Not romantically, he said quickly. Just small talk, but it was wrong, and I ended it. I deleted her number, blocked her. I crossed my arms. You should have told me. I was afraid, he said. Afraid of losing you. You almost did, I replied. He nodded slowly. I know. Before either of us could speak again, my phone buzzed on the table. I glanced at the screen. It was our daughter. She rarely called this early. I answered. Hi, sweetheart, everything all right? Her voice was firm, too firm. Mom, Dad called me last night. I closed my eyes. Of course he did. What did he tell you? I asked. He said you two had a fight, that he handled things badly, and that you might need me. I swallowed. I'm okay, I said softly. Well, I'm coming anyway. She said, I took the morning off. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I hung up and looked at him. She's coming, I said. He nodded. She should know the truth. 20 minutes later, the front door opened and our daughter walked in, her expression caught between worry and fury. She hugged me first, tight and warm. Then she turned to her father. What did you do? She demanded. He didn't defend himself, didn't lie, didn't deflect. He just said, I was selfish. She stared at him, then at me. Mom, I sighed and explained everything, the conversation, the insecurity, the woman at the gym, the emotional spiral, the words that cut into me like glass. By the time I finished, she was shaking with anger. I can't believe you, she snapped at him. After everything Mom has done for you, for this family, you think you deserve better. You think you're some kind of prize. He didn't speak. He just lowered his head. Our daughter stepped closer, tears in her eyes. Dad, she said softly, you're not supposed to break the woman who spent her whole life building with you. His shoulders slumped. I know, he whispered, and I'm trying to fix it. She shook her head. I don't know if you can. Silence. Then she turned to me. Mom, what do you want? I took a deep breath. For the first time since everything started, I truly asked myself that question, and the answer was complicated. I don't want to throw away 25 years, I said. But I also don't want to stay married to a man who doesn't appreciate me. He looked up, pain in his eyes. I do appreciate you, he whispered. I just forgot how to show it. Our daughter crossed her arms. You don't deserve Mom. If you think you can trade her in like a car. I know, he said softly. No, she corrected. You don't. But you will. And then she turned to me. If you want space, Mom, I'll support you. If you want to work on it, I'll support you. If you want him out of the house, I'll help you pack his bags. I smiled faintly. She was her mother's daughter. I just want time, I said. That's all. My husband nodded. You'll have it, he said quietly. As much as you need. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally in control, not him, not his insecurities, not his midlife crisis, me. And it felt powerful. The next days unfolded in a strange rhythm, quiet, cautious, fragile. We weren't fighting. We weren't pretending. We were simply existing beside each other, as if learning how to breathe in the same space again. And yet, every morning when I woke up, there was a tiny shift inside me, a small reclaiming of myself, a reminder that I wasn't bound to him the way I once believed. On the third morning, I walked into the kitchen and found him already dressed, nervous, pacing. "I'm going to therapy," he said simply. I blinked. "Today?" He nodded. "First session." There was a faint, almost boyish fear in his eyes, like the kind he had when we were young, and he was about to give a risky presentation at work. "I'll be back in 2 hours," he added. "Okay," I said. He hesitated. "Do you want me to tell you how it goes?" I thought for a moment. "Yes," I said finally, "but only if it's honest. I don't want sugar-coated versions. You'll get the truth," he promised. He left quietly, closing the door behind him with uncharacteristic gentleness. I went to the living room, wrapped myself in a blanket, and stared at the window as morning light filled the room. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't planning my day around him. I wasn't managing his schedule, his moods, his habits. I was just me, a 52-year-old woman rediscovering her own silence. An hour later, my phone buzzed. It was my sister. "Hey," she said. "Your daughter called me." "What's going on?" Of course she did. I sighed and told her everything in short, controlled sentences. When I finished, she exhaled dramatically. "That man is out of his mind," she said. 25 years and he thinks he can just replace you. With who? A yoga instructor who calls everyone babe. Despite my own pain, I laughed. A real, unexpected laugh. She continued, "I swear, men hit 50 and immediately lose their balance. Aging hits them like a surprise exam." "He's scared," I said softly. "And you're not," she countered. "You just got blindsided." "I am scared," I admitted. "But anger isn't helping me. I need clarity." "Good," she said. "Just don't let clarity look like forgiveness. He needs to work." I knew she was right. When we hung up, I found myself wandering through the house. Every room whispered memories, some beautiful, some haunting. The hallway wall filled with family photos. The kitchen where we laughed cooking dinner together. The living room couch where we comforted each other after my miscarriage. Love had lived in this house, but so had disappointment. I placed my hand on the back of the couch and whispered to myself, "You're allowed to choose yourself." 2 hours later, he returned from therapy. He stepped inside quietly, almost timidly. "How did it go?" I asked. He sat on the couch, exhaling deeply. She asked me why I wanted someone younger. "What did you say?" I asked. He rubbed his face with both hands. I said I wanted to feel alive. And what did she say? He gave a bitter smile. She asked me if destroying the woman who spent 25 years loving me made me feel younger. A cold, sharp silence filled the room. I nodded slowly. "Good question." "She didn't let me hide," he said. "She didn't let me blame age or attraction or insecurity. She said I've been avoiding myself for years." I stared at him, the truth settling over us both. He continued, "She asked me when I last looked at you, not as the woman who takes care of everything, but as the woman I fell in love with." "And?" I asked quietly. His eyes softened in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. "I realized I stopped seeing you because I stopped seeing me. I let my own insecurities turn into fantasies, and then turned those fantasies into justifications." My throat tightened. "I didn't cheat," he repeated. But emotionally, I walked toward something dangerous. And I own that. For the first time, he wasn't begging. He wasn't defending. He wasn't panicking. He was acknowledging. "Therapy was hard," he said. "Really hard. She wants me to come twice a week." "That's good," I said. He looked up at me. "Aina, do you want this marriage?" The question pierced the air. I inhaled slowly. I want honesty, I said, and respect, and partnership, and to feel chosen. You are chosen, he whispered. No, I said, meeting his eyes. I was defaulted. There's a difference. He closed his eyes as if the words stung. I continued, I'm not promising anything yet. I'm not agreeing to stay or leave. I'm giving myself time, and you need to give me space. He nodded. Aina, thank you, he said softly, for giving me a chance at all. I didn't do it for you, I replied. I did it for me. He took that in, really took it in. That evening, our daughter came by again. She studied him carefully, suspicious, protective. Did therapy humble you? She asked bluntly. He nodded. Yes. Good, she said. Mom deserves a man who fights for her, not one who window shops. I nearly choked on my tea. He nearly died inside. But she wasn't wrong. Later, after she'd left, he approached me with something in his hand, a photo. Us, on our wedding day. You deserved more than I gave you, he said quietly. I know, I replied, and I want to earn back the right to stand beside you. I searched his face. There was no arrogance, no entitlement, no assumption, just hope and humility and the fragile beginning of a man rebuilding himself from the inside out. I placed the photo on the table without taking it from him. We're not done talking, I said. I know, he whispered. But for the first time, I paused, letting the truth settle. I think you're finally ready to listen? His eyes softened. I am. And maybe, just maybe, that was the first real step towards something new. Not the marriage we had, the marriage we might still build. If he could keep fighting, if I could keep healing, if we could find our way back to each other without losing ourselves again. But this time, the choice was mine. The next week unfolded like a slow unwinding, not painful, not peaceful, just real. For the first time in decades, we weren't operating as a married unit. We were two people sharing a home, learning how to speak to each other without old habits masking the truth. He gave me space. Too much, sometimes. He walked softer, talked quieter, moved carefully like one wrong step might break the floor. And I learned how to take up space again. One morning, I sat at the dining table reading a book, not a self-help book, not a marriage book, a romance novel I bought years ago, but never read because life always got in the way. He walked in slowly. Morning, he said. Morning. He hesitated at the counter, then finally asked, can I sit? Yes. He sat across from me, elbows resting on the table. He looked at me the way a man looks at someone he's trying to memorize again. What are you reading? He asked. A book. He waited for more. I didn't offer it. He smiled awkwardly. Right. Sorry. Don't be. He nodded and looked down. I wanted to update you about therapy. I closed the book. I'm listening. She asked something yesterday that I wasn't ready for, he said. She asked me to describe you. Not the wife version of you. Not the role you play in our home. You, the woman? And what did you say? I asked that he be curious. He swallowed. At first, nothing. I blanked. It stung more than I wanted to admit. But then, he continued. She started asking questions. What did I admire about you when we met? What drew me to you? And suddenly, everything came back. He looked up at me, really looked at me. I told her you were the smartest woman I ever met, that you challenged me, that you laughed with your whole face, that you were brave and kind and stubborn in a way that made me better. My breath caught. I told her. He added quietly that I was lucky you said yes. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I let the words sit between us like warm light. Then he added, she said something that hit me hard. What? She said, I stopped seeing you because I stopped deserving you. Silence. Heavy. Sharp. True. I leaned back, absorbing that. I also told her, he said, that I want to learn how to see you again, but not the woman who cooks or cleans or manages the house. You, the woman underneath all the layers. A strange feeling flickered in my chest, the faintest whisper of hope. I'm working on it, he said. Not for you, for me first. Because I can't be a good husband if I'm still hiding behind fear. I'm glad, I said softly. He nodded and stood. I'll leave you to your reading. But before he walked away, I called his name. He turned. You're trying, I said. I see that. The relief that washed over his face was almost childlike. Thank you, he whispered. Later that afternoon, our daughter stopped by again, this time less angry, more protective. How are things? She asked, dropping onto the couch beside me. We're talking, I said. She rolled her eyes. He better be doing more than talking. He's in therapy, I said. He's working. She gave me a long look. Mom, she said gently, I love Dad. I do, but don't let progress blind you. 1 week of effort doesn't erase a year of selfishness. I know, I said. I'm not rushing. She leaned her head on my shoulder. Do you still love him? The question hit me harder than I expected. I thought about it. Really thought. Love wasn't gone. But it wasn't untouched either. It was like a crystal vase knocked off a table, not shattered, but cracked. Yes, I whispered. I do. But I'm learning to love myself too. She squeezed my hand. Good, because you deserve that. After she left, I walked into the backyard and sat on the old wooden bench he built for me years ago. It was chipped now, weathered, much like our marriage. He found me there an hour later, his hands in his pockets. Can I sit? He asked. I nodded. He sat beside me, leaving a respectful gap. I wanted to tell you something, he said quietly. Something I realized today. What is it? He stared at the sky, gathering his thoughts. I didn't want someone younger because I wanted beauty or novelty, he said. I wanted someone who didn't know me well enough to see my flaws, someone I could impress without effort. I blinked, stunned by the honesty. But you, he said softly, you know me. You see my flaws. You see all the years and scars and failures I try to hide. And instead of running, you stayed. I looked at him. That scared me, he said, because I didn't feel worthy of someone who truly sees me. My throat tightened. And instead of becoming a better man, he said, voice shaking, I tried to escape being one. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Wind rustled through the trees. A bird landed on the fence. The world softened around us. Finally, I said, running never builds anything. I know, he whispered. You want this marriage? I asked.
Yes.
You want me more than anything. Then rebuild, I said, brick by brick, because I'm not doing it for you. You shouldn't, he said. I'll do it. And I added, we'll decide if I still want to stand beside you when the building is done. He took that in, breathing deeply. Then he nodded with a quiet strength I hadn't seen in years. I'll earn that, he said. We sat together, not as a broken couple, not as strangers, but as two people who finally understood that healing isn't a gift, it's a choice. And for the first time in a long time, I believed he might actually choose right. A few weeks passed, not enough to repair 5 years of damage, but enough to stop the bleeding. The house no longer felt like a battlefield. It felt like neutral ground, a place where two people who once knew each other deeply were learning how to breathe again without stepping on emotional landmines. In those weeks, something unexpected happened. I found parts of myself I didn't know I'd lost. One morning, I stood in the bathroom brushing my hair when I suddenly realized it had been years since I'd really looked at myself in the mirror, not the fix your hair before work glance, not the check your makeup before dinner glance, but actually looked at the woman who survived heartbreak, at the woman who carried a marriage on her back, at the woman who stayed strong even when her heart cracked right down the middle. For the first time, I didn't see desperation or betrayal staring back. I saw a woman who deserved better, no matter how the story ended, and I didn't cry. Instead, I picked up my purse, locked the house behind me, and walked. Not rushed walking. Not walking with a task. Not walking for someone else. Just walking. The sun felt warm on my skin. The wind moved gently through my hair. Birds chirped in the distance. And for the first time since everything happened, I wasn't thinking about him. I wasn't thinking about the marriage. I wasn't thinking about betrayal. I was thinking about me. Who I was, who I wanted to be, who I was becoming. Later that afternoon, I visited a small boutique downtown, somewhere I rarely went because I always convinced myself it was too expensive or too luxurious. But I touched the clothes anyway. Soft fabrics, warm colors, things that made me feel something. A young girl working there walked over and smiled warmly. Looking for something special, she asked. For myself, I answered. That alone felt like a victory. I bought a dress, a simple one, not too fancy. But when I wore it at home later, I felt like someone who had just returned to her own body after a long time away. When he saw me in it, he stopped mid-step in the hallway. You look, he struggled for the right word. Beautiful. I nodded politely. Thank you. But inside something powerful shifted. This time, the compliment didn't feed my worth. I didn't need validation. I didn't light up because he approved. I appreciated the words, but my self-worth was no longer tied to them. That was new. That was freedom. One weekend, our daughter suggested lunch. I met her at a small cafe she loved. She took one look at me and grinned like a proud parent. Well, she said dramatically. Look who showed up glowing. I laughed. Stop. Seriously, Mom, she said. You look different, older. I teased. Healthier, she corrected. And lighter, I blinked. Lighter, she nodded. Like someone who finally exhaled after years of holding her breath. Her words struck something deep inside me. Was that true? Had I really been holding my breath all these years? Maybe. She leaned forward. So how are things at home? Don't sugarcoat. I sipped my tea. We're talking, I said. He's been going to therapy. He's trying. And I'm giving him space to try. And you? She asked. Do you want him back fully? Or just observing him from a distance like a scientist watching a confused animal? I laughed so hard I nearly choked. She smirked. I'm just saying. I don't know yet, I said honestly. My heart isn't rushing anymore. I'm letting time speak. She nodded approvingly. That's the version of you I always wanted to see, she said gently. A woman who doesn't shrink for a man. Her words filled my chest with warmth and pain and pride. When I got back home, he was in the living room, reading something from his therapist. He looked up as I closed the door. How was lunch? He asked. Good, I said. We talked. He nodded slowly. About me? Yes, I said truthfully. He swallowed. And I replied, she wants me to remember, I don't owe you immediate forgiveness. He nodded again, his jaw tightening, but not out of anger, out of acceptance. She's right, he said quietly. You owe me nothing I haven't earned. Another pause. I want to earn it, he added. I nodded once, then walked past him toward the kitchen. Not coldly, just confidently, and that single walk past, that soft, quiet act of choosing myself, felt more powerful than any argument or apology could ever be. Later that evening, I sat in the backyard watching the sunset. The air smelled like jasmine. The sky glowed orange and gold. A soft breeze moved through the trees. He stepped outside slowly, stopping a few feet away. Can I sit with you? For a moment, I considered saying no, not to punish him, but to protect my peace. But I nodded. He sat down, leaving a respectful space between us. After a long silence, he said, You're changing. I'm remembering, I corrected softly. You look happier. I feel lighter. He swallowed. And I ruined that? He whispered. No, I said gently. You damaged it. Ruined would mean I never find it again. But I did. I found myself again, with or without you. His eyes glistened. Aina, he said, voice breaking just slightly, I'm proud of you. I looked at him with calm strength. I'm proud of me too. And in that quiet sunset, with distance between us and new clarity inside me, something became very clear. I wasn't waiting for him anymore. He was waiting for me. And for the first time in 25 years, I was finally choosing myself. By the time the 8th week arrived, the atmosphere in our home had transformed into something I never expected, not romance, not forgiveness, not the old marriage returning, but honesty. A raw, uncomfortable, necessary honesty neither of us had practiced in decades. He had developed a new habit. He knocked before entering any room I was in, even the kitchen, not because he feared me, because he respected my space in a way he never had before. One evening, I sat in the living room surrounded by paint samples. Yes, paint samples. Because somewhere in the slow rebuilding of my self-worth, I had realized something monumental. I didn't like the color of our living room. It was dull beige, a color chosen 20 years ago because he liked neutral tones. But I wanted warmth, brightness, life. I wanted a room that felt like mine. He entered quietly, pausing when he saw the color swatches. You're repainting? He asked. Yes, I said. I want to change. He walked closer, his eyes scanning the bold colors, cornflower blue, honey gold, sage green. Which one do you like? He asked gently. I smiled without looking at him. I don't need your approval anymore. I wasn't trying to give approval, he said. I just want to know what you like. I held up a warm, deep green. This one. It's beautiful, he said honestly. It'll look stunning. I hesitated. Do you like it? I asked out of habit. He shook his head softly. It doesn't matter what I like. What matters is that you finally feel like this is your home too. For the first time in years, I felt seen, not as a wife, not as a caretaker, but as a woman with preferences, individuality, and voice. I'm painting it this weekend, I said. I'll help, he offered. No, I replied gently. I want to do it myself. He nodded, accepting that boundary without a hint of tension. I'll stay out of your way, he said with a small smile, and he did. 2 days later, I stood barefoot on a plastic sheet, roller in hand, painting the first stroke of green across the wall. The transformation was immediate, vibrant, alive, bold, just like the woman I was becoming. I was halfway through the wall when he appeared at the doorway, leaning against the frame. "You look happy," he said. "I am. Can I bring you water?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "Thank you." He returned with a glass and set it on the table behind me without intruding. After a moment, he spoke again. "The therapist asked me yesterday what scares me most about our marriage." "And what did you say?" I asked while painting. "I said I'm afraid you'll realize you deserve more." My roller paused mid-stroke. He swallowed hard, and she said, "Maybe you do." My heart stilled, not because of his pain, but because of the truth in those words. "And how did that make you feel?" I asked gently. "Terrified," he whispered, "but also humbled." He stepped forward slightly, keeping distance but speaking softly. "I'm learning something, Anna. Love isn't about holding on to someone so tightly they can't breathe. It's about giving them room to grow, even if you're scared they'll outgrow you." I didn't reply. Sometimes silence says more than words. Later that evening, after I cleaned up, I sat on the sofa with my legs curled under me, admiring my newly painted wall. He walked in with 2 cups of tea. One for him, one for me. He placed mine on the coffee table and didn't sit until I gestured for him too. The silence between us wasn't cold anymore. It was calm, restful. The kind of silence that only happens when 2 people stop performing and start simply being. After a few moments, he said, "I've been thinking about the day I told you I wanted someone younger." I stiffened slightly. He continued carefully. "I didn't mean I wanted a younger woman. I meant I wanted to feel young, alive, desired. And I placed that responsibility on you unfairly. I kept my eyes on the painted wall. That was cruel." I said quietly. "Yes," he whispered. "It was." "And selfish?" He nodded. "It was." "And deeply hurtful?" He swallowed. "Yes." I finally turned to him. "You broke something you didn't even know you were breaking." "I know," he said. "And I'm not asking you to fix it. I'm asking for the chance to fix what I broke." There was something different in his voice, not desperation, not panic, but humility. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "I want to show you something." I opened it slowly. It was a journal page. His handwriting, messy, uneven. List of things I need to rebuild. 1, respect for my wife. 2, respect for myself. 3, understanding my insecurities. 4, accountability. 5, communication. 6, patience. 7, emotional presence. 8, trust. 9, honesty, gratitude at the bottom. He had written, "I want to become a man my wife doesn't have to forgive, just one she wants to stand beside again." My chest tightened so intensely I had to inhale slowly. He watched my face, waiting, not expecting. "I'm not promising you anything tonight," I said. "I know." "I'm not saying yes or no." "I know. But I see you trying." He nodded. "And effort," I added softly, "is the first thing I fell in love with in you." His eyes glistened at that. We sat side by side, not touching, not rushing towards some resolution. Just 2 people, wounded yet trying, broken yet rebuilding, older yet learning for the first time that love without growth is only habit. And I wasn't living in habit anymore. By the time I went to bed that night, one truth settled deep inside me: I didn't need him. But maybe, just maybe, I still wanted the chance to see who he could become. By the time a couple more weeks slipped by, our house felt like a space balanced on a delicate thread, not breaking, not healed, just suspended somewhere between past wounds and future possibility. I hadn't fully forgiven him. He hadn't fully earned forgiveness. But we were no longer living in the ruins. We were building on top of them, piece by trembling piece. One evening, I received an unexpected text from him. "Can we talk tonight? Something important." My stomach tightened. Important could mean anything, a confession, a decision, a request. When I walked into the living room, he was standing by the window, hands in his pockets, looking out like a man trying to gather courage from the sky. "You wanted to talk," I said, my voice steady. He turned, nodded, and gestured for me to sit. I didn't. I remained standing. That small choice shifted the power dynamic immediately. I was no longer the woman waiting for his words. I was the woman evaluating them. He cleared his throat. "I had a breakthrough today," he said. "In therapy." I raised an eyebrow. "A good one or a bad one? A painful one?" He admitted. "But necessary." He paused, then took a deep breath. I realized the exact moment our marriage started breaking. I crossed my arms, not coldly, just protectively. "Go on." It wasn't when we fought. It wasn't when we struggled financially. It wasn't even when we lost the baby. His voice cracked just slightly. I grew still. "It was when you became so strong." He whispered that I stopped believing I was enough for you. My breath froze. He continued quietly, painfully. "You carried everything, the house, the bills, the children, the emotions, and me. And instead of admiring you the way I should have, I felt smaller next to you." I didn't interrupt. He needed to say this out loud. "I convinced myself I had nothing left to offer you," he said. "And instead of becoming better, I looked for ways to feel bigger, easier ways, fantasies, younger attention, imagined validation." He swallowed hard. "I wasn't looking for youth, Anna. I was looking for proof that I wasn't failing." Slowly, my arms loosened around my chest. He stepped forward, not too close, but close enough that I heard the vulnerability in his breathing. "In therapy, she asked me something terrifying." He continued. "She asked if I actually wanted a younger woman, or if I just wanted to feel like a younger version of myself." "And what did you tell her?" I asked quietly. He gave a sad, honest smile. "I told her I want the version of me who deserved you." My heart clenched. He kept speaking, voice low and sincere. "I want to grow into a man who doesn't get insecure when you shine, but proud." I exhaled slowly, not out of anger, out of release, because for the first time, he wasn't making excuses. He was facing himself. He walked to the coffee table and picked up an envelope. "I have something for you," he said. I hesitated before taking it. Inside was a completed application. Divorce papers. I asked calmly, though my pulse jumped. "No," he said softly. Quite the opposite. The title read, "Marriage Restoration Program Intensive Couples Therapy Application." I blinked. "I signed up," he said. "They only accept couples. You have to sign too, if you want to." "You signed both our names?" I asked. He shook his head quickly. "No, I filled my half. Yours is blank." "I won't force anything." "What exactly is this program?" I asked. "It's 6 weeks of intensive communication building, emotional healing, and relationship restructuring with licensed therapists," he explained. "Homework, sessions, exercises, accountability, the full painful, honest truth." "And why are you signing up?" I asked. "Because," he whispered, "I want to rebuild with you. Not the old marriage, that one died. I want to build a new one. One where I don't disappear into fear and you don't carry all the weight." Silence settled between us. The version of me from 2 months ago would have signed immediately, from fear of losing him, from fear of failing, from fear of being alone. But the woman I am now, She doesn't jump. She evaluates. So I said, I'll think about it. He nodded, not disappointed, relieved. That's all I hoped for, he said quietly. Just that you'd consider trying. Not for the past, but for whatever future we choose. I placed the envelope on the table. We're not rushing, I said. Agreed. And if we do this, I added, the work isn't mine. It's yours, too. Especially mine, he said without hesitation. I studied him, his face, his posture, his sincerity. He wasn't the man who told me he wanted someone younger. That man had been insecure, confused, lost. This man, he was waking up. He sat on the sofa, elbows on his knees, voice softer. I know I don't deserve another chance, but I want to earn one. Then he looked up at me, slow, steady, honest. Aina, I want to fall in love with you again. And I want you to fall in love with someone new too, the man I'm becoming. My throat tightened. It wasn't a line. It wasn't manipulation. It wasn't panic speaking. It was hope and humility. I sat down slowly across from him, hands folded in my lap. I'm not promising you anything, I said again. I know, but I see your effort. He exhaled shakily. That mattered to him more than any promise. And effort. I added, this is the first step, not the last. His shoulders sagged, not in defeat, but in relief. Then I'll keep stepping, he whispered. We sat there in quiet, not touching, not rushing, just breathing together. Two people no longer trapped in the past, but unsure if they'd walk into the future side by side. Yet for the first time, the choice felt like mine. The following week felt like the beginning of something I hadn't expected. Not a reconciliation, not romance, but clarity. True, quiet, unshakable clarity. For years, I had lived inside a marriage where my needs were always the last item on the list. Now, suddenly, I was living as a woman who asked herself what she wanted. One morning, I sat at the kitchen table with a notebook, not to plan groceries, bills, appointments, or chores, but to answer a question my therapist had asked me the day before. If you had no fear, what kind of life would you build for yourself? The question had rooted itself inside me like a seed. So I wrote, I want joy, I want peace, I want conversations that don't drain me. I want a marriage where I'm not the only one trying. I want passion, not youthful passion, but grown passion. Mature courage, two people choosing each other on purpose. I want to live without waiting for someone else's approval to feel alive. I want love, yes, but not at the expense of myself. I closed the notebook and exhaled. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid of the truth. Around noon, he walked into the kitchen. He hesitated when he saw my notebook, but didn't ask. That alone told me how much he'd changed. The old version of him would have demanded to know everything. Can we talk? He asked gently. Yes, I said, flipping the notebook shut. He sat across from me, his posture careful in a way that wasn't insecure, just mindful. I had a session today, he said. A hard one? About us? I asked. About me, he whispered. I nodded for him to continue. She asked me what I'm most ashamed of, he said. And I told her, I'm ashamed that I made you question your worth. My chest tightened. He continued, voice steady. I'm ashamed I let insecurity disguise itself as justification. I'm ashamed I let fantasy whisper louder than loyalty. I'm ashamed I made you feel like age is something you must compete with. I'm ashamed I forgot the reality of the woman beside me in search of an illusion I made me feel younger. And I'm ashamed I made you small just because I felt small. His honesty was small. His small was small. was raw, sharp, and cleansing all at once. I swallowed. And what did she say? She said, shame means nothing unless it leads to change. His eyes lifted to mine. And I want to change, truly. The sincerity in his voice made the air feel heavier and lighter at the same time. I've been thinking, he said carefully, about the program I showed you. If you don't want to do it with me, I'll still keep going alone. I'll still work on myself. That sentence hit me hard. Not because he was offering effort, but because he was offering effort without condition. I'm not trying to win you back quickly, he added. I just want to become a man worthy of you, even if you choose not to come back to me. I closed my eyes for a moment, absorbing that. Then I said, I haven't decided yet. I know, he said softly. And I'm not going to be rushed. I don't want you rushed, he replied. I want you honest. I nodded again, feeling the calm settle over us. He stood up to pour himself water, and when he returned, he said something I never thought I'd hear from him. I've been reading books on emotional accountability. I raised an eyebrow. Really? He chuckled at my expression. Yes, really. Turns out decades of neglect don't fix themselves just because you feel guilty. I couldn't help but smile. And what did you learn so far? I asked. He sat back down. That love isn't a feeling, he said. It's a discipline, a choice you make every day, even when you're tired, insecure, or afraid. My eyes softened, and I forgot that, he said. But I want to remember. I leaned forward slightly. Do you know what I learned? I asked. What? That you don't need someone younger. You need someone healthier. He closed his eyes as if the words hit him deep. And right now, I added gently, you're finally becoming healthier. He let out a long, shaky exhale. I'm trying, he said. I see that, I whispered. A quiet moment settled between us. Then he surprised me by saying, I've also been thinking about the future. Not ours, yours. My eyebrows rose. Mine? Yes. I've been thinking about what you want. What you've always wanted. What you stopped wanting because life got too heavy. He pulled out a folded paper from his pocket. I made a list, he said. I blinked. A list. He handed it to me. It read, things Anna deserves but never asks for. Rest without guilt, freedom to choose, space to grow, a partner. Not a burden, a man who listens, a man who apologizes cleanly, a marriage built on mutual effort, a relationship where she doesn't disappear into responsibility, emotional consistency, passion, without pressure, a future she chooses, not one she inherits, love that doesn't shrink her. My throat tightened. You think I deserve all this? I whispered. Yes, he said without hesitation. And more? And why didn't you give it to me before? I asked. He didn't flinch. Because I didn't know how, he said quietly. But I'm learning. I looked at him, really looked. At the man who betrayed me. At the man trying to correct himself. At the man who spent decades hiding behind pride. At the man now unlearning everything he thought made him strong. He wasn't perfect. He wasn't healed. He wasn't done growing. But for the first time in years, he was present. And presence can rebuild what fear destroyed. I'll decide soon, I said softly. About the program? He nodded. Whenever you're ready, he whispered. And whether you say to yes or no, I'm not going anywhere. Then, after a moment of brave vulnerability, he added, I love you, Anna. Not the younger version of you. Not the perfect version. You, now, today. This woman. And somehow, That mattered more than all the apologies in the world. The morning I made my decision was quiet, unnervingly quiet. No tension, no rushing, no anger. Just a soft, steady calm settling over the house like a gentle fog. I made myself tea and stood by the kitchen window, watching sunlight spill across the yard. It was the same view I'd seen for 25 years, but for the first time, I saw it with a different heart. Not a heart afraid of losing him. Not a heart desperate for validation. Not a heart willing to shrink, to fit inside someone else's insecurities. A heart that remembered itself. I sat on the sofa, the one I had rearranged without asking him, and opened the envelope he'd given me 2 weeks earlier. The marriage restoration program. One signature was missing. Mine. I stared at the blank line for a long time. Not because I didn't know the answer, but because knowing it so clearly felt both terrifying and powerful. Footsteps approached slowly. He came into the room, stopping at a respectful distance. "You're up early?" he said softly. I couldn't sleep. He nodded, hands clasped together nervously. His eyes dropped to the envelope in my hand. "You're deciding today?" he whispered. "Yes." A long breath escaped him. "Whatever you choose," he said gently. "I'll accept. No pressure. No guilt." I appreciated that. "It's not an easy decision," I said. "I know," he replied, "and I won't try to sway you." He walked to the other side of the room, giving me space, and sat down, not beside me, not across from me, but diagonally, as if symbolically acknowledging that he wasn't entitled to closeness. Silence hung between us. Then I said his name. He lifted his head instantly, hope and fear tangled in his expression. "I thought about leaving," I said plainly. "Really leaving?" He swallowed but didn't interrupt. "I thought about selling the house, getting an apartment, starting over alone." His fingers tightened on his knees. "I know," he said quietly. "And a part of me still wants that," I admitted. "The freedom, the peace, the independence I found again." He nodded once, slow and humble. "But another part of me," I exhaled, "another part of me sees the man you are becoming." His breath hitched, "And that part of me wants to see where this leads." He closed his eyes briefly, like those words were a sunrise breaking inside him. "But," I added firmly, "I am not going back to the old marriage. I would never expect you to." He said immediately, "That marriage failed you." "And you failed me," I said. Not cruelly, just truthfully. "Yes," he whispered. "I did." We let that truth sit between us. Raw, acknowledged. Unburied, then I held up the envelope. "I'll sign," I said. He froze, not with excitement, but disbelief. "You will?" he asked softly. "Yes," I said. "But not because I'm afraid to lose you. Not because I want to fix what was. Not because of history. I'm signing because I want to see if we can build something new. Something healthier." He blinked hard. His voice trembled. I can do that. I want to do that." "I know," I said. I signed my name slowly, deliberately, without shaking. He watched with quiet awe, the kind a man feels when witnessing something he knows he didn't deserve, yet hopes to be worthy of someday. When I finished, I slid the signed form back into the envelope and handed it to him. "This," I said softly, "is not forgiveness. I understand. This is not a promise. I know. This is a beginning, nothing more, nothing less." He nodded. Then, after a long, steady breath, he said, "It's enough. It's more than I hoped for." He didn't try to touch me. He didn't reach for my hand. He didn't attempt to hug me. He simply looked at me with a sincerity I hadn't seen in years. I'll earn the rest, he said. And for the first time, I believed he might. Weeks later, we attended our first session together. The therapist looked between us, two people aged by pain, but softened by effort, and said, "This won't be easy. You will both be uncomfortable. You will both face truths that hurt. But if you commit to honesty, healing is possible." I looked at him. He looked at me. For the first time in a long, long time, neither of us looked away. He reached out slowly, not to hold my hand, but to place his palm face up on his knee. An invitation, not a demand. I didn't take it, not yet. But I nodded, and he smiled, not brokenly, not fearfully, but gratefully, because this was not a story of a wife fighting to keep a husband, not a story of a marriage magically healed, not a story of a woman who forgave too quickly. This was the story of a woman who reclaimed herself, and then chose from strength, not fear, to see if love could grow again. When we left the building, the wind was cool, the sky bright. He walked beside me. Not ahead, not behind, beside. For the first time in years, and as we stepped into the sunlight, I realized I wasn't fighting for our marriage anymore. I was fighting for a future where I didn't lose myself again, with or without him. And somehow, that felt like the strongest beginning of all.